Morning! Although the astute amongst you will realise it's not morning, it's actually 7:30 in the evening. So today has been round friends for barbecue. So I'm doing this late rather than early, which is when I'd normally do it, but because I had to be around there early this morning for various other reasons, so I couldn't do this. As you also notice, my voice has come back. Yes, I've managed to get my voice back. It's no longer croaking. That only took 4 weeks. Probably actually smaller than 4 weeks, but it seems like bloody ages. I was sitting there croaking and lost my voice. Hey ho! So, I apologise, I haven't been on here for a couple of weeks. The reason why I haven't been on here for a couple of weeks is because I've been playing White Van Man the last couple of weekends. I have actually been moving furniture and other personal possessions from one place to another. I split up with an ex a number of years ago, and finally she had agreed in a few weeks ago to release the my possessions that were sitting in her loft. So I've been picking those possessions up and I've been moving furniture around. So I haven't had time to sit down and chat to you guys. The other thing those of you who are astute will notice is that the studio has moved. So we are now in a new studio, a new location, should I say, which actually has a window in it. Although it's not a great view, but it is a window, so you know. But it's this has been a bit of an interesting exercise, because as the studio has grown over the last couple of years, from very humble beginnings I might add, to what you see around me now, which is not all of what the studio is in, by the way. I mean, you can only see what's on camera, but there's a lot more sort of around and about below me for various pieces. So when I took the studio down and disconnected all the cables and started moving all the keyboards from A to B, what I didn't realise was putting it all back together again and getting it working in the same way was going to be a bit of a challenge. So I had to make some different design decisions this time round. Things like the Jupiter now is completely USB. I actually use the USB output on this rather than the analog outputs, even though I have the analog outputs patched. I'm using USB on it now. That was just a change in design decision so that I could surface the Jupiter up into my Mac in a different way. And there's a number of other things at the moment, just purely due to constraints of some other stuff that was temporarily stored in this room. The keyboards are a bit squashed, yay way. I have now moved all the other stuff that was stored in this room, so I can now move these keyboards back this way and give myself a little bit more space, and probably swap the Jupiter and the Crony over again back to the way I like it. So I've got my Korg, I call my Korg stack, my M1 and my Kronos, and my Roland stack, even though the Yamaha DSR-2000 is at the top, being the D50 and the Jupiter on this side. It's been interesting having them round the other way as well, because it's which hand do I play it with. I'm normally used to playing the Jupiter with this one and the Crony with this one. But it's been interesting. But it's not quite there yet. There's a few more bits and a few more wires that need to be put in, and a few more things that need to be sorted out before it's fully back up and running. And obviously to get the squashing out. In the meantime, I've been to the toy store in Guildford, my friendly shop Anderton's, who I will plug every single chance I get, because they are a fantastic store to go to, very knowledgeable about electronic music recording, drums, keyboards, and they have got more guitars in that place than I have seen in any other shop for a very, very long while. Yeah, I'll plug over. But they had my feet in there, so where are they? I can't can't see them. I can't see my feet. Hang on a sec. And that's because I left them in the wrong room. So these are the feet. I'll have to take one out so you can see what they look like. So there you go. That's a foot. And these are Gibraltar stuff. So as those of you who know who've watched my rant before and some of the videos on the channel, my racking is all Gibraltar, which is generally drum racking rather than keyboard racking. But the reason why I use it is purely because it's actually incredibly strong. You know, and to be honest, my keyboards are worth a lot of money to me, and I don't want them falling on the floor. And I can play stuff that's on this top rack here, and it doesn't move. Whereas I've found with the sort of typical, the old style 3-tier tier keyboard stands, by the time you get to the top one, you're oscillating backwards and forwards every time you hit a key on it. And I don't particularly like the A-frame stuff. So anyway, so these are feet for Gibraltar kit. However, if you turn them upside down and you use them like that, which is how I use them, they become stabilizers for your keyboards to stop your keyboards moving backwards and forwards on the rack. So there you go. That's what I went to bought from my favourite music store. So, one of the things about recovering said personal effects is I have also now recovered my first keyboard. So this is the keyboard I learned to play on. It was bought when I was in my teens. It was actually bought as a present, and it was the most expensive thing my parents could afford at the time. So this was the most bang for my buck, as they say nowadays. So this is, let's move it right up to the camera. There you go. This is the Yamaha DSR-2000. So this was slightly more the sort of the home market keyboards that were around at the time. It was probably sort of more moving into the semi-pro market at the time. It was a great keyboard. There were actually 3 of these in the range. There was a 500, a 1000 and a 2000. This is obviously the 2000, the top of the range. And they had more functions as you moved up. So I don't think there was if I remember correctly, there wasn't a sequencer on the 500. On the 1000 there was a 3-channel sequencer, and this is a 5-channel sequencer. The number of voices that could be accommodated on the 500 wasn't 100. On the 1000 I think it was 100, but you couldn't edit more than the first 20. This you can edit 40. Things like RAM cartridges, I don't think there was a facility on the 500, the 1000 and 2000 had a RAM cartridge facility. So as you went up the range you got more features, and it had this nice little feature, which is when you were actually standing with this on a stand, you can actually move the display up so that it was actually more in line with you when you're standing there, especially if you're standing up and trying to play. Which I did. This gigged with me. This was the first keyboard I gigged with. It is it's actually in fairly good nick if I'm looking at it. There's a couple of scratches on the front here. There's a key missing, or a bit of a key missing there. And it's a sort of bit battered at the back here, which is where it was bolted to a stand and taken off a stand. But other than that, it's actually in very, very good condition. It will always have a soft spot in my heart because it was my first keyboard. I have kept it for the last 28 years because it is 28 years old. It was bought when I was, when I was in my mid to late teens, and it is I really enjoy playing this keyboard. This one here has 100 voices on it. You could actually dual stack the voices, so you could actually play two voices at once. And if I remember correctly, I think this was 16 note polyphonic. Although I'd have to go and check that because it's a long time ago. And obviously if you dual stack the voices you only got 8 notes, but that was quite enough for what I was doing at the time, because it was just sort of like playing big chords behind the guitarists who were playing all kinds of other stuff, which was tended to be how my gigging in those days went. It has a drum machine on it, it has a chord and bass generator on it, so that you could do 1-finger chords or 3-finger chords, and this would then put on appropriate bass lines. Let's say it's 100 voices, 40 of those, 60 of those voices you can't edit and save. The first 40 registration positions on this keyboard are actually user editable, so you can actually edit any of the tones and then save them back. A very good keyboard as I remember it. So there you go, that was the DSR-2000. I probably will do a video on just showing this keyboard, purely because I love it. I still do. We'll probably have it up in the studio for a bit before I put it back in storage. Plonk that down there. So the next thing to report is, yes, even I make cock-ups. So some of you may recall, I think I mentioned it on a rant a few weeks back, that I was in the market for an A820 or an A880. Well, I saw one come up on eBay, didn't really read the specs properly, if I'm brutally honest, and there you go, there is, you see that, an A880. So what these things are designed to do is they are designed to route MIDI from one device to another. So let's just do a recap, very quick recap. So the way MIDI tends to be implemented if you're using MIDI is you will daisy chain the MIDI from one keyboard to another keyboard or a sound generator, which by the sounds of it is okay. Okay, don't get me wrong, that's sort of an okay thing to do. The problem I have found in my studio is that when you've got some legacy tech in there, you have things that tend to be rather chatty and have the occasional wants of putting dubious signals down the MIDI channel and therefore triggering something on a sound module that you don't want to happen, which is bloody annoying if you're trying to record something or you're in a live gig situation. All of a sudden you get a note that won't turn off. Okay, so, and the problem with that is you don't know which piece of kit is actually generating the spurious signal, because even though they say in, out and through, and the out is what should be generated off the unit itself, that doesn't always necessarily mean that that is what's going on inside. Okay, so the way I have my studio, I tend to have my studio set up, is that I have a controller keyboard going into a unit such as this, which has 8 ins and 8 outs, and then I have that signal routed to a tone generator or another keyboard that I want the sound to be triggered from. So effectively I only ever have 2 or 1 hop between the controller keyboard and the sound module. Alright, and that's what this unit does. And it's, you know, it's an intelligent unit. It actually has a battery in it. You can use it in an offline mode. It has no interface to a computer other than sort of sysx dumps up and down, but you can actually program it sysx as well. So that's what this unit's all about. Modern tech is all USB, so you don't really need to worry about the MIDI too much. But for the legacy tech, you know, this solves a range of problems. It also solves problems with devices putting delay on the MIDI channel, because it does take a finite amount of time for the signal to go through a device and come back out the other eye, and then to the next device and to the next device, and you can end up with a latency on some stuff that becomes noticeable. So reducing the number of hops you have does it all for you. The other thing it also allows you to do is it also ensures that if you are triggering something on channel 1, then you every other keyboard or device in your system, if you had it daisy chained that was listening on one, it would trigger. Whereas with this, you are telling the signal what device you want it to trigger on. So even if you haven't been through and set all the other MIDI channels up, which I know is laborious because I have done it in the past, just leaving things that they receive on channel 1 or in some of the legacy tech like the DX7 for argument's sake, having it in Omni mode, which makes it hear on all channels. And why would you have it in Omni mode? Because it's far easier to leave the DX7 in Omni mode for that particular reason. Anyway, the cock-up, fantastic unit, took it to pieces, found out I have bought a 110 volt version, sorry not a 110, a 100 volt version of this particular piece of tech. And I can't do the trick that I have been able to do with other pieces of rolling kit from around the same age, which is go and look at the transformer, and typically on top of the transformer there will be a solder tag for 100 volts, a solder tag for 110, solder tag for 240, and a solder tag for I think it's 60 hertz 110, 50 hertz 110. Yeah, it doesn't exist on this. This is a cheaper transformer. So yes, I have made a complete cock-up on that one, which is a shame because I've been after one of these for a while. But the hunt will go on, and I shall stick this back on eBay, but this time I'll make sure that the user really understands it is 100 volts, not 240. There you go, cock-up. Blah, blah, blah. Anything else that's happened this week? Well, I haven't been actually going out very much because I have been moving things around and such like. However, me and a group of people went to see Sister Bliss 3 weeks ago, I think it was now. She did a 2-hour set, including I Can't Get No Sleep. And I have to be honest and say her set was flawless and the light show was fantastic. And I think when you go to these sort of events, it's all about atmosphere, music and lights, and they had all 3 of those correct in abundance. All I can say is the gin and tonics flowed very, very easily, and I was very, very drunk, having thoroughly enjoyed myself. But there you go. Anyway, got a few more bits to do in the studio before I call it a night tonight. I'm going to shut up now. I will be back, same place, not so sure about the same time, next week. Until then, take care. Bye bye.